heated exchange. I mean, he is just telling him.
During intense matchups, it's pretty normal to see players having heated exchanges with one another, but on some rare occasions, these players can go off the rails and pick a fight with whoever's in front of them, even if that someone's barking instructions in their own corner. Here are some instances where players decided to fight with their own coaches.
And that was not the best timeout for Miami. There was some dysfunction over on the...
For someone as level-headed as Eric Spoelstra, there has to be a deep reason that set him off this bad. It was a battle of powerhouses between the Heat and the Dubs in March of 2022, as the Heat were looking to bounce back after the 76ers defeated them 2 nights prior. As expected, both teams were evenly matched. Then came halftime, the score was deadlocked at 50. However, the wind blew in a different direction when the third quarter began. Andrew Wiggins hit back-to-back threes to push the lead to 10.
Head of Poole, he saves it in. 2 seconds on the shot clock.
Then Jordan Poole knocked down this ridiculous one-legged three, which triggered a timeout coming from the Heat's head coach. It was there and then that all hell broke loose. Apparently, Coach Spo felt that Butler wasn't focused and zoned into the game, and as a result, some words were shot between the two. Udonis Haslem, being the vet he is, didn't take this lightly. UD suggested that Jimmy B is too soft. Then Butler said that UD would be nothing without D Wade. And then even after that, Coach Spo, Butler, and Haslem kept on going at it, even after the buzzer had sounded off to resume play. The Heat struggled in the fourth and eventually lost 118-104 to a severely undermanned Warriors team that was playing without the services of the Splash Brothers and Draymond. In the post-game interview, Coach Spo laughed at the situation and said,
Everybody was wondering where the dinner plans were tonight after the game.
Well, for me, this heated huddle was nothing but a healthy argument between 3 competitive people who just really care about winning a ball game, and nothing more, which is totally the opposite of what happened in this next story. After just winning 30 games the season prior, the Golden State Warriors opened up the 97-98 season on a bad note by only winning a single game out of their first 14 outings. On top of the worst start in franchise history, the Warriors have also missed the playoffs in each of the last 3 seasons. To make matters worse, the Warriors missed out on some big names in the previous 2 draft lotteries. The Warriors selected the 6'11" Todd Fuller as the 11th overall pick in the 96 draft. Ahead of these guys. And they picked a Donald Foyle over the crazy athletic Tracy McGrady in the 1997 draft. But on the positive side of things, the Warriors had a 27-year-old Latrell Sprewell carrying the team on the offensive end by being the team's top scorer. But aside from him, supporting cast mainly consisted of inexperienced players who were still trying to figure out their roles on the team. Throughout the years, the Warriors tried to get back to their winning ways by constantly changing coaches before finally settling with PJ Carlsmo at the start of the 97-98 season. Carlsmo was known to be a confrontational coach, and this just didn't sit well with Sprewell. As the losses piled up on the court, Sprewell gradually became frustrated with Carlsmo's coaching style and the team's lack of direction. During a passing drill with Muggsy Bogues, Sprewell suddenly snapped when Carlsmo told him to throw crispier passes.
PJ came down and told Priest to put something on the effing pass on Muggsy.
With frustration and anger bottled up for several weeks, Sprewell walked up to Carlsmo, grabbed him by the neck, and began choking him until he got pulled away by teammates and team officials.
Slam, and the next thing you know, Sprewell has PJ around his neck.
To cool off the tension between the two, they kicked Sprewell out of the gym. However, 20 minutes later, Sprewell wasn't done just yet as he marched right back inside and punched Carlsmo in the grill before leaving for good. After an investigation took place, Sprewell was handed a 68-game suspension, which cost him $6 million in salary, and when he came back, he immediately got traded to the Knicks, where he was embraced as an anti-hero. Meanwhile, Carlsmo got fired after a 6-21 start following the incident. The next story we have here took place in 2001 during the matchup between the Kings and the Pacers. As you can see in this clip, Pacers assistant coach Foster immediately stood up from the bench and called out Bitadze for his defensive relapse. However, Goga made up for his mistake by hitting a three-pointer on the other end. But while sprinting down the court, the then 21-year-old kinda rubbed it in his coach's face by saying,
Saturday, a low on Monday.
And then a few moments later,
Matter of fact, Chris, they're separating them. They're keeping them separated.
Larry Brown is considered to be one of the great minds in basketball today. But back in the 2004 Olympics, this wasn't the case as Argentina shocked Team USA in the semifinals. The blame game began afterward, and the media was looking for the sole scapegoat for Team USA's unexpected collapse. Then out of nowhere, Team USA's point guard, Stephon Marbury, called out Larry Brown in public and pinned him as the guy who should be responsible for their failure. He also didn't hold back in voicing out his frustration with how Brown ran things during that time. I really had a bad experience with Larry Brown in the Olympics. It was a team full of all-stars, and he was trying to coach the team like it was his team, telling guys how to play the right way, what they should and shouldn't do on the court, instead of just trying to win that gold medal. During dinner after the loss to Argentina, Brown heard Marbury yapping about his coaching style and other grievances to the entire team. And then a few moments later, Brown quickly left the scene and was so angry at Marbury that he went to the officials of Team USA and said, "I want him off the team. I want Stephon Marbury off the team. Put him on a plane and send him back home now." Well, the beef between the two didn't stop there. In fact, for some odd reason, the front office of the New York Knicks decided to hire Larry Brown as the head coach, while Marbury was still the team's superstar. As everyone expected, the partnership between Brown and Marbury was a complete disaster as the Knicks finished the season 23-59. The war of words between the two would continue throughout the season, and this was one of the main reasons why the Knicks were a disaster at the time. Marbury believed that his coach should be the one to blame for their struggle, as he didn't like Brown's approach of going to the media instead of talking to the team directly. I think it's personal now. He always crosses the line. That's nothing new. Certain coaches deal with certain things in certain ways, and he handles his things through the media as opposed to sitting down and talking with people. And still, if you sit down and you talk with the coach, it's liable to get back to everybody, so you're really not safe there either. On the other hand, Brown clapped back by saying, "So, you're the best guard in the league and the team is 17-45. Yeah, it's the coach's fault. I don't know why you play a team sport and you're not concerned about making your teammates better and helping your team win games. That's the only thing that really matters, and if you're the best player, surely you're going to have some effect on the game's outcome." Issues between players and coaches are usually resolved internally, but in 2015, the Kings weren't able to contain the beef between DeMarcus Cousins and George Karl, which exploded all over the place. Since they drafted Cousins in 2010, the Kings have switched coaches multiple times to please their superstar, and at the same time, Boogie has been labeled as a coach killer for his well-documented history of behavior towards his former coaches. At the tail end of the 2015 season, the Kings believed that hiring veteran coach George Karl would finally straighten up Boogie and put them back into the playoff picture. But as the season began, things went from bad to worse for the Kings immediately, as the two of them just couldn't get on the same page. Karl also had a long-standing beef with Melo when he was still coaching in Denver, and putting him alongside the hostile Cousins was really just asking for it. The relationship between the two began to deteriorate early in the 2015-2016 season, and eventually things fell apart right after the blowout loss against the Spurs that dropped their record to 1-7. Vance Wahlberg was the assistant coach at the time, and he told in an interview what exactly happened in the locker room right after the Spurs game. As soon as Karl walks in, DeMarcus just goes off. I mean, off. Coach hasn't even said a word, and it's F you, coach. You think you're a Hall of Fame coach? All the hell you care about is your wins. You don't give a about us. Karl wanted Cousins to be suspended for his behavior, but the Kings seemed to be favoring Boogie by letting him off the hook. Karl talked about the locker room altercation in a future interview, and here's what he had to say. That night, the bomb went off. Vlad was right there. When they supported Cousins instead of me, I felt, okay, I'm in the compromise position. Cuz has the power. They sent that message many times, too many times to the players, and the players wanted someone to stand up to Cuz, and they wanted it to be their coach. But at that point, I realized that either you compromise or you blow it up. And my job was to make us a better basketball team and get to the end of the year. Karl's words proved to be true, as he got the boot as soon as the season was finished, while the Kings kept Boogie for quite some time before sending him off to New Orleans midway through the 2016-2017 season. 5 years later, though, the beef is still very much alive, as Boogie and Karl would trade punches all over social media. And I think this is far from over, as long as these two still have their Twitter accounts. Anyway, guys, on a slightly different topic here, did y'all want to know what happens when players around the league decide to trash talk one of the best players in the league in Steph Curry? It's crazy, I know. Why would anyone do that? But anyway, they did, and I documented the results right here. So just click the video, guys, and like always, you know where I'll be on the other side.